pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll start our program out tonight with an award for the organization. Steve will give us an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oops. Sorry, you can't hear us, can you? Is that better? Okay, much better, right? Let me start off by saying, first of all, thank you for being here today. I finally got some folks. I was getting worried about our presentation, and so it appears as though everybody's coming on board now. So anyway, annually, the GFOA, the Government Officers Financial Association, which is the professional group of people who represent the financial aspects of government accounting, reporting, and so at this point each year we submit our financial information based in great degree upon how Brown Armstrong has helped us prepare these documents. Recently we submitted our June 30th, 2015 financial statements, and we were successfully awarded a Certificate of Excellence. With that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Ryan Nielsen. He is with Brown Armstrong, and he is one of the directors of their operations. So, excuse me.
Good evening. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve and board. Again, my name is Ryan Nielsen. I'm a partner with Brown Armstrong, and I'm responsible for the annual financial statement audit of the district's financial statements. Each year, as you know, the district submits a set of financial information to the public and users where they assert that the financial information contained therein is in fact accurate. It's our responsibility to perform an audit in accordance with professional standards and issue an opinion as to whether or not that information is in fact accurate and fairly presented in all material respects. The Government Finance Officers Association started this program back in the 1940s to recognize governmental entities that go above and beyond what's required as part of the submission of the annual financial information and as part of our audit, in providing the public with transparent information and a lot of additional facts and statistics about the financial health of the district. Over the past few years, Steve and his group decided that they wanted to go above and beyond just submitting the standard financial information in the spirit of providing that transparency to the public, the community that gets serves. And in order to complete this application process and obtain the award, not only does the district have to obtain a clean opinion from their auditor from us, but have to include a comprehensive annual financial report that contains a statistical section, an introductory section, a management discussion and analysis section, additional required supplementary information, and statistical sections. And that has to be submitted within 180 days of the end of the year. Then the GFOA performs an analysis and they issue a grade to each entity. That grade goes to their committee, and if all is well, then that brings us to where we are today, which is presentation of an award for financial excellence. So it's my pleasure to present to you the award for financial excellence in financial reporting of the Government Financial Officers Association. Congratulations to you all.
I'd like to introduce the finance staff. They were doing this all day, every day, the entire year. Debbie Ackerman, Sally Martin, and Melissa Ash. Melissa Ash is the accounting supervisor. Sally. Debbie primarily works in our accounts payable activities, but she also does a lot of payroll activities as well. Sally does mostly the payroll and sales, and Melissa watches what they're doing. So she's over there. So anyway,
We need the short.
okay.
To take a picture. Maybe not. Okay.
Melissa, you want to move in front
There
of
you go,
Debbie?
Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, but don't walk on.
So, okay, so I'm
Pick
going
one
to take her
short
three big smiles. Big smiles again. Come in just a little bit tighter. Cool.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, how many years have we won this award?
This is the third year in a row that won the award. Since they began the submission for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013.
I think that's significant.
Very significant.
Congratulations.
Good work, Steve and your team. Thank you, Ryan, for coming. We'll see you next year, right?
Absolutely. I'll be out here in a couple months, actually.
I mean, for the next award. you know.
Yes, absolutely.
This is going to become an annual thing.
I look forward
We
to
should
it.
plan on a barbecue or something every year.
We can
Certainly
up the
makes our job a lot
celebration.
easier.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Approval for tonight's agenda. Are there any comments on it? Okay. Agreement for the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public comment. We have one request for public comment. Mike Holmes, good evening. Welcome. I'm sorry, Hurlis. Sorry. Think of some context. Do you need the microphone or?
I wanted to bring up about the advisory committee, and that's on the agenda tonight, I think. And also, try to get an update on the new bus stop for, instead of having on 3rd and 4th Street from the 22, make it on 6th and 7th Streets. Because between 3rd and California Avenue is 1.1 miles. And that's a little bit far for a person to be walking. So, and also on the 44, if you take out the Heritage Road and bus stops and put them on Chester, maybe you can do it that way if it's cost efficient. Thank you.
Did you have a question about our?
But the advisory committee, I was about to see if you guys going to start appointing them or whatever.
Karen?
The application deadline is the 19th of August, so that's this Friday. And there will be an item on the board's agenda next month to appoint the members.
You submitted your application, Mike? Thank you.
The last time I was here.
Right, I remember. How many, do we know how many apps we've received or?
No, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Minutes of our last meeting, July 19th. Any discussion on that this evening?
Motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry, James?
Just on the Proposition 1B, under the ayes, you forgot Director Parra. We need 3 ayes there.
Pardon?
Director Parra needs to be included under the ayes for Proposition 1B motion on page 3. That's all.
Does it? Thank you. So we have a motion for approval of the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Accounts payable disbursements, review, any discussion?
I have a couple questions.
Have your mic on, please, Jim.
Yeah, thank you. I can't see it. The bottom of page 1, there is 3 PG&E, C, and G figures, and the bottom one is reversed. I was wondering why.
It's a credit. We received a credit for usage, we got back a few months ago, we were able to apply it here,
A credit from whom?
PG&E.
We got a credit from PG&E?
Yep.
They overpaid?
No.
Prepaid?
It was a usage.
I'm sorry, I'm not
There
following.
was a settlement by PG&E that required them to return overcharges.
Ah. So this is, do we buy our CNG from PG&E?
Yes, we do.
And so they overcharged us, and so this is our credit?
Yes, it is.
Ah, thank you, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, good information. Is that it, Jim? Thank you. Move for approval?
Make. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Our next item, our fees.
And the purpose of the study was to capture not only the economic and fiscal impacts of riding the bus, but also estimate the environmental benefits of riding the bus, which was a more difficult task for me to do. Now, in an economic impact study, a dollar spent in the economy would create a ripple effect of producing additional employment and income, and it would ignite a multiplier because that dollar would circulate in the economy, creating additional dollars. For every dollar spent in the economy, 4 multipliers will be ignited. One is called the output multiplier, that is all the requirements of other industries to provide a dollar worth of output for a given industry. Like for the Get Bus to produce an additional dollar of services, there would be requirements, inputs, like labor and all other physical requirements. The value added multiplier is the output multiplier less the cost of providing those services. The employment multiplier would be the addition to total employment in the economy for each additional employment created in a given industry, like the Get Bus. And the labor income multiplier would be the additional income, the addition to total income created for each dollar of income created by a given industry. Each multiplier effect has 3 impacts. One is the direct impact, that is the initial dollar spent by a given industry. The indirect impact are the income paid to the workforce and the suppliers and vendors of that industry. And the induced impact is the re-spending of that dollar of indirect impact by households and businesses that relate to the initial dollar spent. When we add all these 3 up, we find the total impact of a given spending. Now, this is the map. The direct impact, the initial spending, would create indirect induced impact, and when we add them up, we have a total impact of a dollar spent in the economy, of a new dollar spent. Now, for the Get Bus, I used several databases. One is the regional input-output multipliers for the County of Kern, which are created by the Department of Commerce. And then I used a very advanced computer software and databases called the InPlan Pro. And then I received financial and employment data from the Get Bus. Now, in 2015, the total operating expenses of the Get was $28.8 million, and total construction outlays was estimated to be $2.2 million. Now, for the operating expenses, the $28.8 million of spending in 2015 created $12.5 million of indirect and $6.5 million of induced impacts for a total of about $48 million. The total impact of the value added effect would be about 23.4 million. The total employment impact would be 457, 75 indirect and 50 induced, and the total income impact was about $14.3 million. And the numbers in the very last row are the multipliers that help the initial dollar or initial job to create additional dollars and additional impacts. Now, these spendings, these impacted spendings would create taxes for the state and local governments in the amount of about $2.7 million, and federal taxes for about $3.3 million. So the total taxes created as a result of this, the operating expenses of the GET would be about $6 million. A wide range of industries benefit from the operating expenses of the GET. These are the top impacted industries: employment services, dry cleaning and laundry services, maintenance and repair of construction of non-residential structures, real estate, services to buildings, waste management, management and consulting services, insurance agencies, limited service restaurants, and insurance carriers. For the top 10, the additional employment, that these are induced and indirect, would be 52, total income 2.2 million, value added 3.6, about 3.6, and total output for these top 10 industries would be $6.4 million. These are the top 10 industries that were impacted by the initial spending of the GET. Now, for construction outlays, I did the same calculations. The total output, 3.5 million impact, value added 1.5, employment 16, and labor income impact would be about $1.1 million with the multiplier effects added there. Now, the taxes created for the state and local governments, about 123,000 as a result of the construction impact. Federal taxes, 243,000 for a total of about $366,000 as a result of construction. And these are the industries benefiting from the construction outlays of the GET. These are the top 10 industries benefiting from 7 jobs, about $130,000 of labor income, $242,000 of value added, and $377,000 of output impact. So altogether, the $28,000, the $28.8 million of operating expenses and $2.2 million of construction outlays would create a total impact of about $58 million. Now, the most difficult part was estimating the environmental benefits of this industry. Talking to Mr. Woods, I visited and read many studies from the American Public Transportation Associations, collected data from the United States Census Bureau for the Bakersfield metropolitan area, data from California Environmental Protection Agencies, and a wide range of regional, national, and international transportation studies. The purpose of this research was to find estimates that have been proven to be correct for the nation or the state or sometimes international locations as a whole. My approach was to get to find these estimates, compare them, and then calculate the per capita benefit, per capita saving, and then multiply that by the population of the Bakersfield metropolitan area. Now, the areas that I looked for were savings from riding the bus in terms of gasoline when you commute to work. Instead of commuting to work, you ride the bus. The parking fees that you would not pay, saving gasoline from avoiding traffic congestions, saving imported oil from overseas, reduction in premature death due to air pollution created by fossil fuel consumption, reduction in the car crash death, and improvement in air quality. Okay. What I have found was that there is quite a bit of savings from riding the bus in the Bakersfield metropolitan area, saving gasoline from commuting to work about 10 million, saving parking fees from commuting to work about 2.3 million, saving gasoline from traffic congestion about 14.3 million, saving from imported crude oil about 2.7 million, saving from premature births 3.2, saving from car crash deaths. Actually here I found the number of car crash deaths in Bakersfield metropolitan area in 2015 and deleted those numbers that were caused by DUI and then multiplied the number of deaths by expected earnings of a lifetime person who did not make it. Saving from improved air quality, 26.5 million for a total of $92.3 million. When I put all of this together, the economic impact of $28.8 million of operating expenses and $2.2 million of construction outlays comes about $58 million. The total environmental benefit would be $92.3 million, and the total economic impact and environmental benefits would be about $150 million. Dividing $150 million by $31 million of operating expenses and construction outlays would give me an average impact and benefit of $4.83. Okay, this is the summary. Economic and fiscal impact 58 million, environmental benefits 92 million. The total contribution of the GET was in 2015 150 million, and for every dollar the GET spends and invests, the Bakersfield metropolitan area would gain $4.83. And that number is very much consistent with other impact studies. Many studies found for every dollar of riding public transportation, $5 additional of impact and benefit would be created. So there is tremendous benefit from the services that you provide.
Question on it, could you give us a quick rundown on your air quality savings as you did on the how did you arrive at that? What were the parameters in that?
If I can go to, that was
the previous.
Yeah. I found the data from the California environmental protection agencies, and for all the pollutants, I found the amount of reduction as a result of riding the bus, and then for each unit of reduction, there is a dollar, there is a valuation. There is a valuation for each unit of reduction. And then multiplying the total expected reduction from riding the bus in the Bakersfield metropolitan area by the marginal cost of that, I estimated the valuation for each pollutant and added them up to come up to
So, just need a quick general explanation. That valuation for pollutant is a composite developed to identify the environmental improvements and
Yes.
so forth.
Yes.
And that has a dollar value to it.
yeah, and that
Okay.
is very significant.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Grammy, the first time I read through this, I thought how marvelous this was. And then in subsequent readings, I begin to understand all the work that it took to put this together for a company that is so diverse as we are, with all the pieces that are going into it. So thank you for your hard effort to make this such a great report. As a board member, this is going to be a very important document in the next 5 years. Just FYI, Dr. Grammy has done this for BARC twice, and his department has done it a third time in 2015 for us. We've done that because you can see the value of the information. But all this information doesn't mean anything without having somebody of Dr. Grammy's stature putting a stamp on it. I could put this together. It may be right, it may be wrong. Nobody would believe it, but as soon as Dr. Grammy puts his stamp on this, this becomes a document that this company can now publish, stand on as concrete as any foundation in town. And the information that the staff will mine out of this in the next several weeks as they read through this several times is just outstanding and can be used in the marketing department so many different ways, as well as just internally within the company, and how we think about what we're doing and what we're doing. And we couldn't do this without this document, and I never be humble opinion, and you have done a great job with this. I'm looking forward to reading it yet again, because every time I read it, I learned a new word, darnage. I had no idea. I never heard that word before in my entire life. And if I was to give an answer to a definition, it would not be the impact of the atmosphere or the EPA around us. It would be something to do with, oh darn, okay, so thank you so much.
I must confess that this was a learning experience for me as well, especially on estimating the environmental benefits of the services that you provide, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Cindy?
Yeah, I just want to, first of all, thank Director Baldwin for suggesting that we do this. I mean, this document is amazing. The environmental benefits are just astounding. We tried to do something similar with biking to figure out the environmental benefits of a dollar per dollar, benefit. And I think this is exactly like Mr. Baldwin was saying. This is something that we need to shout from the rooftops to publish and let people know that one of the biggest complaint is the air quality in our valley here, and that this is key. This is key to trying to get ahead of the air quality, and the work that I know that took into getting this is just amazing. I just want to thank you once again, and Director Baldwin for suggesting that we get this done.
Glad the board executed it and the staff executed it. Thank you.
Elliot?
Doctor, thank you very much. we have a metric that we use in transit. It's a fare box recovery ratio. And my opinion of that was that's a pretty good measure of the quality of how our company is doing. It takes into consideration our expenses and our revenues and tells us how efficient we're being with the money. But after reading something like this, I think it is an incomplete metric, and because it doesn't take into consideration things like environmental impacts. It also that ratio that we're testing on doesn't take into consideration things like if we someday go to an electric bus and we now are really lowering our pollution, we're going to even further reduce our tons of pollutant and increase the the value, the economic value of our riders. The second thing it doesn't do is as we get more and more people on the bus, your metric of economic impact really are dollar per dollar created. Will give us a much better, I think, understanding of just how valuable this company is to the community as a whole. So I appreciate that, and I learned a lot. And I started thinking about, as you go to, the state of California, and we look for funding and different sources. It's interesting. We can go back, and something I never thought of is how much taxes we create. You said we create about $6 million a year in taxes that we send to the state and to the federal government. What's interesting about that is, there's kind of a circle in play. A lot of our funding, 80% of our funding on the operations side and almost 100% on the capital side comes from those two sources, the state and the federal. So they're sending us the tax dollars that they collected from sales tax from somebody else, and we're in effect sending it back to them in another way. And I think that's an interesting wheel of tax economics on how public investment ends up coming back to the taxpayers in a lot of benefits. And so I think it's a really interesting way to look at it, and I appreciate Mr. Baldwin's leadership, in helping us, moving us in this direction.
I paid them to say this.
You paid us all to say this.
Yeah, right. Right.
So thank you very much for your time, and I'm now really curious, given this metric, how the bus industry stacks up against other industries, and it really helps you look and go, okay, well, now we got to go and make decisions. In economics, I took a class one time, you're either going to make guns or butter, so which one do you do? So that was my old economics. And really, it kind of helps us, as a society, put our dollars, tax dollars, or society's resources in certain areas. So I'm happy to see that we're doing a good job. And thank you.
On the note of comparison analysis, I've attended several national and state level transit conferences, and this subject actually comes up, and there's a lot of value behind it because it has a lot of merit, obviously a lot of value. And this number here, as I understand it, it's 1 to 4.83, almost $5, 1 to 5 contribution is the highest number I've seen across the country. So we have a lot to congratulate ourselves for. So, Mr. Grammy?
I'm not done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Doctor, could you talk about two things? One, what Director Kirschman was talking about, the circle of the tax. Because one of the things that I think that is important for the public to know is that we pay taxes, but this company brings them back home in spades. So if you could talk a little bit about that, and then talk about the number of jobs that are created in our community because of GET. The GET jobs, yes, but the over and above jobs that are created because of GET. If you could talk to those, please.
This in-plant software is nationally, internationally used by many companies to do the economic impact study. And when you input the data, it would not only measure all impacts, but also the fiscal impact and the employment impact of the initial spending by any industry. And that is really important, and it would break it up into what kind of taxes are created. So I think it is extremely important for your organization maybe to write a summary of these and publish it in the Bakersfield, California, and other credible journals to let the community know that you as an industry providing a very valuable service, not only economically but tax-wise and employment-wise, and also all the benefits that you create in terms of reduction in air pollution, and preventing car crashes, and premature births. It's something I could never imagine that riding a bus would have a benefit. So I will be more than happy to draft a short article for the Californian and send it to you, Ms. King, and see if they would be willing to publish it.
And the jobs? The creation of the jobs?
Yeah. For every dollar that you spend, I showed you the top 10 industries impacted by your spending. So for every dollar you spend, you create new jobs and new incomes. And those who have new jobs and new incomes would spend that money. And they would in turn create additional new jobs and additional new incomes. So that is why I emphasize not only the direct impact of employment, but also indirect and induced. That is, for every job that you have, every dollar that you spend, new jobs and new incomes will be created. And then it will go even further, that those who spend your money, they will create even more jobs and more incomes. And that is the beauty of using this economic impact software.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Karen?
I just wanted to let the board know that Dr. Grammy has graciously agreed to give his presentation at the Kern COG meeting as well. So it will be broadcast on KGov.
Excellent.
I will try not to be late.
They're easier to
It's
find.
easy to find, yeah.
We'll send a bus for you. Excellent. This is excellent information for us and our viewing audience as well. Thank you, Doctor.
It really peels the onions back, so you can really see some stuff that you don't think about.
Right. Well, like I mentioned in these conferences, I've heard these ratios thrown out, and and they're impressive to me, but nothing over 4. The highest I've ever heard was 4. And to understand the breakdown, the actual elements of the impact for me personally, it's like I'm very proud to be part of that impact, part of bringing that value to the community. It really brings a lot of
I personally feel the same way.
satisfaction. Yeah, a lot of satisfaction to the work we're doing, and particularly, of course, the organization. It's where the work is really being done. Congratulations. That's excellent number.
Thank you. I would just say, I think you've caught the bug. Those of us that work in transit mostly do it because we think it provides an excellent benefit to the community, and not just to our riders, but to the whole community. So this is a little glimpse into why we do what we do.
It's more than that, in my opinion. In my opinion, it is, here's the proof. We can talk about it all we want to, but this document says, here's the proof of what we're saying. And there's a lot to be said for that. So, yeehaw. Thanks for doing that. You're welcome.
One thing I don't think should be lost, and that is, I don't think that document says this is just what happens if you just willy-nilly do it. If you willy-nilly put a transit system together, I think you point out that that's a high number. I think that says a lot about our particular organization. Yeah, I think transit as a general is a pretty good returner of economic investment. But I think our particular bus company does a uniquely good job at it, and that, like you said, is the proof. And that's another part of the story. It's not just transit in general. It's that we at GET do it this way.
That's a good point.
And that's a distinction I think we need to have.
I agree.
Because that's a reflection on the folks that work here and have worked hard. And it's a reflection on, quite frankly, the board in the past and the job that it's taken to get here. We've been on here for a few years.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And that should not be taken away from them. We just did it this year, but historically, this company's been doing pretty well. So.
And this document's good for about 5 years. It needs to be done 4 years from now, so that it can be fresh and new for the 5th year. I mean, it's good for about that time period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that technology will continue, as you pointed out earlier, to the doctor, that
Sure.
will have an even greater impact.
Okay, thank you all. Next item, Steve, asset disposal, procurement and investment policy, affirmation or continuation.
Well, as practice, as we do practice each year, we bring forth to the board policies that are board initiated and are approved by. In this particular case, these 3 policies have come up from this last year of asset disposal. There's a process of authorization and protection from public investment when assets are worn out and there's no longer any need for them to be used, and are disposed of it properly and transparently. So there's one policy. The other one's investment policy is rather simple. The state has very strict compliance requirements for investing public funds. It's to protect the public funds first and foremost, keeping them safe, and therefore you have minimal opportunities for investments in, I'm going to say, higher risk areas. What we've done in the past, as a matter of practice, is cut the excess funding with the county. Let the county auditor or the treasurer handle the investments. We report that each month to you in the footnote page. Typically, we'll get our income quarterly, and usually it takes about an extra month before we actually get it to you in the financials, but you will see it each time we receive any form of income from those investments. Lastly is the procurement policy. This states the limits and, again, the precautions of how you do your business, both ethically, morally, as well as economically. And in this particular case, in all 3 cases, there was nothing to change in terms of these policies. The staff did not make any recommendations to change. So this was brought before the Finance and Administrative Committee on August the 5th, and Director Baldwin, as chair, may have a comment to make about this.
The committee reviewed these, read them. There's no changes to them, to our previous approval of them, and we are bringing to the board our recommendation for this.
Do we have a second? Take that as a motion or approve or affirmation. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay. Emery is up next with our 4th quarter performance report on motor bus and demand response services. Good evening, Emery.
On the 4th quarter, I'll start here with the demand response. The get-a-lift. For the 4th quarter, the total unlimited passenger trips was 16,009, which was a slight increase, 0.8% from the 4th quarter of the previous year. And that if you look at the fiscal year total to date columns, that will be for the entire fiscal year now that all 4 quarters were complete. So the total ridership on get-a-lift for 2015-16 was 62,660. And that translated into 14.2% increase from the previous year. Moving down a little further here, the revenue numbers were 12% higher than the same quarter for the previous year. And fiscal year total to date, the revenue there, $156,050. The financial numbers on these reports are unofficial numbers, and once we have our final audit, there could be a few adjustments to these numbers. But that will take a while, so these are the numbers that we're using right now. The revenue was 27.4% higher than last year. And then moving down a little further here, the number of complaints, there were only 5 for the quarter compared to 14 last year. So there's a drop there. And then moving down to the bottom part of the report there, the performance metrics, just to point out a few numbers there, the revenue cost ratio there, 8.35% for the fourth quarter. Similar to last year, which was 8.65%. And for the entire year, just a little bit less than 10%. When you take a look at the benchmarks, which is the rightmost column there, some of the numbers near the bottom, we were a little bit below the benchmark on passenger trips per mile an hour, but they were, except for operating expense per passenger mile, the other benchmarks under the operating expenses were all met. Any questions on the get-a-lift numbers? If not, I'll move on here on page 2 to the fixed routes, the motor bus numbers. For the fourth quarter, the total unlinked passenger trips was just a little more than 1.3 million, and that translated to 7.7% decrease compared to the fourth quarter of the previous year. And then moving a little farther over in the columns, their fiscal year total to date, the ridership for the year, 5,457,000, which was a slight increase from the previous year. Miles not too different than the previous quarter, and then hours were just a little bit higher. The revenue numbers for the quarter were almost identical to the fourth quarter of last year. But year to date, the numbers were quite a bit higher. They were $4.7 million in revenue versus just over $4 million in the previous year. So it was a 15% increase. And then moving down a little further here, yes.
I just wanted to have that, sorry, I wanted to sink in. I love the way you say it. You say it so calmly, yet there's a whole lot of meaning between what you just said. So last year we made $4 million revenue. That's in the entire year?
Well, we were, for this year, we were almost 4.7 million, and the previous year was just over the 4 million.
That was for the year, correct? That's revenue
right,
for the
entire year.
So we increased our revenue by 15.3%?
Yes.
Was that due to the fare increase?
There was a fare increase.
What were we expecting the revenue to increase by with the fare increase? I'm just trying to see if reality matched up with our predictions.
I would have to ask Stephen for that.
I think the prior years comparing to was a strike-driven year.
Oh, so.
No, we had a projection when you presented that to us. Hey, we're going to increase our fares.
Right.
This is what we think the revenue is going to be. How close does that match up with reality? I guess is my question.
I'm not looking into that. I'll call you. I'll get back in touch with the board. Okay.
Yeah, because that kind of tells you, the next time we want to have a fare increase, kind of helps us. Gauge what reality is going to be. We can really use that as our gauge. And then the rider looks like it went up as well. Is that what I'm seeing?
The ridership was up just slightly.
Is that consistent with what we thought? I go back to, we thought there was going to be a decrease in ridership. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it's turned out that there has not been a decrease in ridership?
No, it hasn't.
It's pretty much a
That's
push.
it.
It's not really an increase.
6.3%.
But I think that's the key right there.
It tells you about the elasticity of the...
Is that we didn't lose the riders that we thought we were going to lose because of the increase.
Total unlinked trips, 0.1%.
Well, that's,
One thing to keep in mind there,
but
you
the
can, when you
revenue is
look,
up 6.3. Sorry.
if you look at the operating days, there were 364, and there were, because of the strike, there were only 330 in the previous year. So when we look at the performance metrics, when you take the, on a relative basis, ridership, passengers per day, there was actually a decrease. Because you're dividing the total by the actual number of days.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So the strike was still in last year? How long until we get to
Get beyond this.
away from having to compare to
We're
the
there.
strike here?
We're there.
We're there.
We're there
Yeah,
now?
now we're
finally
Okay.
there.
Finally there?
Starting July.
Okay.
Because now we're in fiscal year 16, 17.
Anyways, I think,
It's a good question.
thanks for that. I saw those and I think that tells us a lot as we try to make decisions, going forward.
I think a point, response to your point, Cindy, and Elliot as well, I think, the planning and, as I see it, the planning and calculating, when we're talking about fare increases, this is like a standard model that's being used, and you need a way in which we need to, as we move forward, and we do experience, as reality adjusts itself, we need to adjust the model perhaps, but we still need to have that best case, worst case scenario ability to calculate those numbers, right? Rather than getting too fine-tuned. In other words, when we do our decision making, we need to know what worst case scenario possibility is. So, just a point. Jane.
Emory, does the last year's number include the month that we gave the free rides?
Yes.
So that's in there as well.
Yes, August. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Sorry for jumping. We just saw those numbers.
Excitement. The whole union is full of excitement.
Well, just from a banker's point of view, revenue's great, but it doesn't mean much until you subtract the expense side from it. So,
Bottom line.
yeah.
And just a few more numbers here to point out. You'll notice there the incidents for the quarter were quite a bit lower. You'll see minuses in virtually all of those categories. So that was some good news there. A lot fewer incidents than the same quarter last year. And also complaints down by 32%, so that's really a good trend there. And the missed service reports also were down by almost 47% compared to last year. And that's probably attributed to some of the timing, the schedule changes where the routes are more on time now, so there's less missed trips. And you'll notice there, the last line, scheduled here, it's 90%, so that's pretty good. And then moving on here to the performance metrics. The revenue cost ratio for the quarter, 17.78%, just slightly less there than the 18.77 a year ago. And then the fiscal year total to date, and again, these are the unofficial, unaudited numbers, but almost 20% there, that 19.96% you'll notice there. And then near the middle rows there, you can take a look there at the unlinked passenger trips per weekday, weeknight, Saturday, and Sunday. And that'll show you what those figures were, comparing the quarter and then also the entire fiscal year. We were just under 18,000 boardings per weekday for the fiscal year. And then the benchmark column there, that's an important one also to look at, especially since the fiscal year has ended there. Some of the benchmarks we were below, we didn't meet the benchmarks there on passengers per mile or per revenue hour. But on the cost figures there, except for cost per passenger mile, we did a pretty good job there. The cost figures per mile, hour, per trip are all lower than the maximum there, which is set by the benchmarks. Any questions on the metrics? Sorry for coming up here. I skipped over that one agenda item. I guess I didn't see it.
Karen?
If I could, I'd just like to go back to something that Emery touched on, and that is complaints. We carried 62,000 passengers on Get a Lift and had 28 complaints for the whole year. We carried 5.4 million passengers on fixed route and had 782 complaints, and that's all complaints that we receive. We investigate every single one of those complaints, and some percentage of them are deemed to not be valid. For example, someone calls in and complains the bus passed by me. We pull the tape, we look at the tape. Well, they weren't even at the bus stop when the bus went by. So those we don't do anything about other than thank the person for the information and log it as an invalid complaint. But I think that's pretty outstanding. We get really hung up on all of the negative that we hear. I mean, 782 times plus 28. A customer service employee had to listen to someone's complaint, and it's easy sometimes to get focused on those complaints. But I think, percentage-wise, that's a very small percentage. And in recent years, it's actually gone up. Our numbers are down this year from last year, but it used to be years ago, before everyone carried a cell phone, they'd have an incident on the bus, and then they'd have to wait until they got to their destination and a telephone before they called in. Now people are calling in while they're on the bus on their cell phone complaining. So we actually encourage people to provide us that information, because that does help us know how we're doing. But I think that's a pretty phenomenal number, and thank our staff, particularly our bus operators, for doing a fine job.
That completes my report.
Thank you, Emery.
Fine, Andy.
All right, let's return to item 7, CSUB Transit Center Architectural Design Contract. Chris, good evening. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As you know, we've been looking for an architectural design firm to work on the Cal State Transfer Center. We solicited for statements of qualifications, and we received 2 of them. One was from a firm called R&L, and the other one was from Wheeler Gray. After reviewing those submittals, Wheeler Gray was deemed non-responsive, and R&L was determined to be well qualified for the project. So we asked them for a proposal for the fees, basically based upon the services we required in the solicitation. And the first one they gave us was well beyond the district's budget. So we kind of entered into some negotiations with them, tried to find some ways to streamline that project. And we also talked to, I know Mr. came and talked to CSUB to try to take some of their requirements out of it. And we finally received a decent proposal from them for $228,885.60. As you know, the project's going to be funded through FTA and TDA funds. Staff presented the procurement to the Facilities and Equipment Committee on August 2nd, and the chair authorized this to come before the board for consideration. And if you have any comments,
Since I was the only one in that committee at the time, still am, but, we looked at this and, in the onset, I'm going to be quite honest with you, $228,000 seems like a whole lot for architectural engineering. This is just architectural and plans, so we don't get any construction for this. And so I was, and I asked Chris, I said, what exactly are we doing here? And we talked about where the location would be, which I'd like to talk about. I think that's relevant to making a decision here. Can you kind of run down, kind of what you talked about, where your proposed location would be?
okay, I think in the beginning we had an agreement with CSUB about doing something in the cul-de-sac area they have there.
Does that computer work? Can you show us on Google Maps? I know I put you on the spot and you shut everything down. Maybe it's too
I
late.
don't think it's up to the internet.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you haven't seen it, it's on a long driveway, goes into the campus, and there's a cul-de-sac at the end of it. And at first we were looking at redesigning that cul-de-sac, and there was quite a bit of restrictions there. One of them was space. They were going to have to possibly design a larger cul-de-sac. I know with having some conversations with the facility gentleman there, he was very concerned about that. There's a lot of car traffic goes in there and dumps students off right in that cul-de-sacs, our buses being in there, whatnot. Well, when we had a little interview with R&L, they proposed an area that's on the straight part of the path there, the street. It's next to a parking lot. There's a little grassy area there with some trees. And they thought it would be much better and give us a lot more space to put a sawtooth design like at BC along that path. So we thought that was great, and when I brought it to CSUB's attention, they were in favor of that.
They were or were not?
They were.
Okay.
So that's kind of the path we're on at the moment.
Okay.
It just requires basically to take a little bit of that grassy area out, relocate some trees or possibly put some new trees in there, sidewalk, shelters, and some lighting. But they were in favor of that.
But I think my biggest concern was it seemed like a whole lot of money for the type of design, that they're proposing, that we're proposing, and that was my biggest concern, is that I thought it was way too expensive for what they were providing. My recommendation still stands that this is the best we can do, but I still think it's too expensive. And I know that sounds contradictory, but the way it was presented to me was, hey, we went out to bid. These are the only person that sent a bid. So we're either obligated to take this bid, or we have to say no and start over again with a different type of scope when we send it out to bid. So that's kind of why I have a mixed feeling about it.
How does this compare to the one we did at Bakersfield College? Was it the same kind of dollar amount that the architect? This is a different architect that designed the one at Bakersfield College. Do we know why that architect didn't put in a bid for the one at Cal State?
BFGC is the one that did it at Bakersfield College, and they no longer are in business. They were bought out by IBI, and all the BFGC folks are no longer with IBI.
Okay, do we know, how does what they had charged us to do it compared to what these people are going to charge us? If it's a similar facility, right? It's the same kind of sawtooth.
I said we should get the CAD file, make, design.
Yeah, give
So
me
it's
the
pretty-
CAD file.
it's
I'll-
pre-
I'll
I was told,
redraw
it said Cindy could do it for, I mean, really, it's very simple to do. Maybe I'm making it simple.
Yeah, so-
It's simple to do what? The comparison?
The design,
Oh,
the
the
comparison
design.
and the design.
I
But the
see.
design, because we really even haven't seen a design, so it's hard for us to gauge how, if you're building a square building for $200,000 or a square building with all these parapets, it's like first you need to do a design and come up with a design, and then take that design and say, okay, guys, draw the plans for this design and bid it out to you. That's just my professional opinion in the real estate world. So that's why I was had mixed feelings about this.
Do you have some kind of comparative analysis on this kind of work that to?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
I
what
do.
I'm asking.
Yeah,
Is there
as far as comparison on design work, well, I designed an entire housing tract of 47 acres and 150 lots, for I think $100,000. That's a design plan through the city and the whole 9 yards. So maybe that's not the same thing as
For the city, or if this was a commercial?
this is a
enterprise?
commercial enterprise. So I'm not saying they're the same thing.
But you just get minimum wage, right?
Well,
Just joking. No,
our
but-
engineers are expensive. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
anyways, Cindy would probably know more about what a design for civil engineering type work, is worth. That's what she does for a living.
So.
I'm just surprised that all we got were two
Me too, I'm shocked at that.
proposals. I
I
don't.
don't understand. I mean, everybody I know of that's in the engineering and architectural business is looking for work.
I think that's been our past history as well. I don't recall BC, I don't think we got any more than 2 or 3 in that design.
Is it just because it's a type of facility that it's not something,
I don't know, maybe they look at the project, it's too small,
It's too small,
doesn't
that's
fit
it.
into their schedule. I mean, there's all kinds of
Yeah.
reasons they don't go after certain bids, certain firms. But definitely, R&L, HOK, the Park and Spirit, they're kind of specific about looking for transit jobs because that's their bread and butter. They look for these projects, they know where to look for them. But we went through the solicitation process like we're supposed to, and can't really control who bids on it or not.
well, I mean, I don't know what, it's a project that's been out there for a while that we wanted to get done, and I'm kind of stuck between wanting just to get the ball rolling, and yet that I think with Elliot, I feel like it's a little high of a proposal, but what would we have to do? Go back and ask for more proposals?
We'd
or
just go through the
go
process
all over
again, yeah, and we'd have to change probably the scope, whatnot, to streamline it better.
If I might, I mean, my thought as I sort of thought about this after our meeting is, we need to have some control over the design. We kind of know what we want. Maybe there's a way that we can, do this. And I propose this. I'll be up front. We can do a quick and dirty design. Maybe tour some local architects, or maybe the architectural classes at CSUB, and take them to BC and say, guys, this is what we did there. This is kind of what we want to do on your campus. Take them over here and say, can you do us a rough design? I mean, a rough design, we're not talking about any engineering. We're talking about, drawing on a CAD file. They're going to have to, put all this data into a CAD file and draw the distances for the bus using the distances up there, and then take that and then take it out to these companies and say, what do you think about that idea?
I think architects are a different breed of designers. They're very, I don't think you can just tell an architect to do that. They want to go live with the grass, and But I do think it was a good idea for them to move it from the court to that grass area And I think that the design that's over at BC is a great design. That's a great place. And so, but I guess I'm with you. If we could get somebody to do that, go to some local architects and ask if they can do that for us. And then, I mean, I don't know what else we would.
Then we
Don't they still have to go, Elliot, though, to the cul-de-sac to turn around?
Yes.
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 So no matter, at this location, they gotta go through that stupid cul-de-sac.
Yeah,
Yes.
my whole point is that we've already designed it once at BC. We have something that works, we have something we like, now they're gonna charge us $225,000 to redesign something that we already like. You know, it's almost like it should cost way less than that to design and do that.
And I think that little turnaround area is big enough. The problem is if you have buses that are stopped there, parked there, you know, to
No, I
pick
get it.
people up.
But you still have to go through that.
Yeah, you
high
still
traffic
have to
area.
go through there.
Karen, do you want to weigh in?
Thank you. I was gonna ask, how important is this to you?
This project is very important.
I agree. It's like I said, it's been so long.
And it's been delayed for a couple of years. And so we need to move the project forward. I appreciate your angst over this. We all fell out of our chairs when we got the original proposal because it was so high. I think Chris has done a good job of working with Cal State, of modifying the scope, of working with the engineering firm to try and bring that cost down. We cannot, you approved or reaffirmed the procurement policy tonight. We can't just go to a local architect and say, can you do this for less? And then award them a contract. This is a federally funded project. We have very strict federal procurement guidelines that we have to follow. We followed them. This is the result of that. Could we get, not $100,000 off it? Probably not. Could we knock $50,000 off of it? But that's going to be another 6 months to do that, and construction costs are going to go up in that 6 months. So are we, being penny wise and pound foolish, trying to squeeze this down further? That's for you to judge, but I think we've done what we are charged with doing and have gotten the best price that we're going to get from this firm. If it's the board's direction, we can throw it all out and start over again, but there will be a delay.
Yeah, like you said, this has gone on for so long. I'm leaning towards going ahead and going with this.
Is it?
Because another 6 months delay, I think, is just, I don't think we can do that.
I'm a little disappointed in CSUP, I gotta say. I just, and maybe I'm mistaken. It's like, hey, we want to do this project with you. I would have liked to seen them saying, hey, listen, we're going to donate some time. We're going to draw. I mean, I know how student projects, a professor could have picked this up and said, this is going to be our student project. And, they could have drawn this all out and brought it to the board and say, this is what we want our transit center to look like, or vice versa. I just haven't got that. So, I understand what you're saying, Cindy, and,
Yeah, I believe in the beginning, Elliot, you were recommending approval, but you wanted to express the issues about this procurement. And if, a couple of issues, as I hear them, perhaps could be, we could direct the step towards some action. For example, following up and determining, let's say we approve this, but we still need to address some of these issues. Number one, follow up and do a survey and find out why we did not get more proposals from other vendors. I know my company gets inquiries about why my firm did not respond to certain procurement request. So that's one of the issues.
That's fine. Well, I will take the direction of the board. I just wanted to air my concerns.
Jim?
I'm going to vote against this. I don't like anything about it. There's nothing about this presentation that I like. And it's not staff's fault. Okay, there's nobody on staff that is at fault for this. Okay? And laying blame somewhere really is just kind of y'all can vote yes, that's fine, but I am not voting for this, and let me just tell you, I don't like the price. I think the price is stupid. I don't like the location. I think the location is stupid. I don't like a lot of things in life, but these are two things that if I can't like the location, and if I can't like the price of it, and if I don't like that we had so few people bidding on it, then why in the world would I vote yes for it? That's where I am in my analysis, okay? So, I don't understand why we get or we don't get cooperation. I don't know. Reality is what we see in front of us. But if we as a company are going to do something in the community to be a benefit for the community, it's got to be something that's beneficial for the community and for GET, for the employees at GET, and for the community at large, just not one entity. So I do not like this. I just don't like it.
How long will this push, if we don't approve it, how long will it push this project back? 3 months, 6 months?
Well, Director Baldwin has indicated he doesn't like the location, so finding another location on the campus, I think, is not possible.
Yeah, I
So,
think they've gone around and around about that.
if we,
Actually, you're misinterpreting what I said. I don't like the location, I don't like the price, and I don't like that we had so few bids. So having all negatives makes it a no for me. If we had a lot of bids and a decent price that seemed reasonable to me, then even a lousy location would be okay.
okay, that clarifies it.
I'm usually not unclear. I apologize for being unclear.
I would say it would delay it 4 to 6 months.
And I agree with you. I think it's not the staff's fault. Like I said, I just don't think we've gotten a great response from CSUB. And I appreciate your comment about how we go and procure things. But I think that we could somehow do a preliminary design work and come up with a picture. It's not hard to do. I think I produced one and sent it to you. Let's get somebody to draw a picture of what this would look like.
We'll have to hire someone.
That's fine.
To do that.
That's
we
fine.
don't have that
I understand
capability.
that. I don't expect you
And does
to.
that have to go to bid as well? Or is it within a lower dollar amount that?
If it's
is
within a
required?
lower dollar amount, we could enter a contract just by getting estimates.
I think that's a good way. I mean, what is that dollar amount?
$100,000.
Well, we can certainly have a group. Look in the phone book, find the top 5 commercial guys who design buildings in this town, and take them out there and show them the issue and say, hey, can you draw something out for us? I promise you, we'll have at least a starting point to go back. And I agree with Jim. I don't support this, and I think he did a great job of talking the reason why. Really, it's cost for me. I think that this is not a good use of the taxpayers' money for what you're getting. I think that location to me is fine. The buses are already parking, close to here, and I think that area would allow us to do something similar to BC.
If I may just clarify something, that the bid that they gave is not just for the design. If you remember, it included plans, enough to go out to bid. They're going to do the RFP process. They're going to help us with the evaluation of that as well. So there is some more staff time in them, for them to go through these bids from contractors and, that process, basically. And I just want to clarify, because it started to sound like it's just
I
this
just
drawing,
sent out
and that's just a very small piece of what they're doing.
I just sent out an entire housing tract, 85 homes, and they went to about 15 different subs. Cost me 10 grand to get somebody to give me a bid. For somebody to do all the bidding process. I'm just telling you that's what the private sector, that's what the market is in the private sector for something like that. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, so there is a couple of factors, Mr. Chair, that I think we need to consider. Are there a limited number of architects that we can go to? Can we only do the ones that do transit design?
No, we can use someone that does other types of design.
Because I'm thinking there's got to be civil engineers around town that do municipal designs every single day. How much revenue have we lost in your best guess in the delay thus far and a continued delay?
I don't know how to estimate that off the top of my head. We've not spent any funds out of the grant yet, so the grant funds are whole. I don't know what the inflation rate is in terms of how those.
I was thinking more on ridership.
There,
increases in ridership.
I don't believe there's any impact on ridership. Although you might be interested to know that we did do a survey out there, and about 50% of the riders their destination is the university, and the other 50% are merely transferring within the system.
Are we in danger of losing that money? I remember being at a TTAC meeting, I think, that they had said if we hadn't spent it by a certain time.
We have been getting pressure from Kerncog to get the project underway, yes.
And I think that's something we have to consider too. Do we know, I know it was December, I think, that when I first heard from TTAC that they were wondering why we hadn't spent the money yet. But we won't lose it, they're just gonna keep pressuring us, or
It's obligated, we have a grant for it, they can't touch it.
they can't touch it?
I hate to be stick in the mud, but is there any way possible the city can intervene and put this on Stockdale Highway as opposed to on CSUB's property?
I don't know, what is that benefit? What's the,
There is no turnaround. Just like at BC, there's no turnaround.
Which
Pull up
is,
and park, pull away and drive away.
which from a service perspective is actually a complication because the buses all have to be going the same direction to enter the facility. And so they have to circle around the block to be able to pull into that facility going the same direction. So if it was built like BC on Stockdale Highway, you would only be able to load it coming one direction, where now buses come from both directions to go in there.
I see. And is there a stoplight at
There is
that
not.
Donhart Drive?
No, there is not.
So how are the buses getting from both directions then?
Patiently,
Oh, there's a cutaway, but no light.
correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
And could we not get maybe the city's help?
perhaps.
Win, lose, or draw, I think we need to petition the city to help us with that, just for a safety factor, if nothing else.
You mean to put a signal at Donhart?
Yeah, Donhart West or whatever that is over there. Is it too close to another signal?
Built some signals. You have to have a warrant study. Signals are expensive. That is a $250,000 project.
Yeah, that
Probably
is.
more than that. It's probably more than that. It's probably $300,000.
Somebody gets hurt there, that evaporates, just like that.
No, it's true. I actually think you could probably get the university to support a signal there. I think they could. Left out there. Maybe you're right. Maybe in making a better project is what we're trying to accomplish. You have to put all these things in there.
And what is what is CSUB giving up to lower this? What was the original price?
The original proposal included a very robust public process where they would involve their students and having them do alternate designs and iconic shelters and things. They gave that up and said, we just want you to come in and build something like you have at Bakersfield College. The original proposal was $600,000.
Okay. I mean, I think we ought to go to the state architecture's office. Because it couldn't be higher than that from them. Dear Lord. Really?
And that was by getting the students involved. What was that going to be, like staff time and
Workshop time and
That was excessive in staff time.
That's what I did when
Where is it?
see the concrete.
Oh, yeah.
I took the picture from BC.
Yeah.
I don't know, Chuck. I'm like,
Yeah.
To give you some idea, I did kind of consult a couple of firms that we worked with, Parsons, Birkenhoff, and HOK. We didn't bid on it. Because when I got the $600,000, I was kind of really forward. And I thought, wow, that's way beyond our budget. We wouldn't even consider anything like that. And I kind of got a feel for it. Well, when they saw the only comment they made, they thought all the costs were, and this is just a private conversation looking at it. They didn't know who it was or like that. And they gave me some feedback as to they thought it was pretty close. They thought there was some excessive staff time there, but that's when we told them about all the public comment and whatnot, the sessions they were going to have. And then they kind of just said, yeah, it's probably pretty close. I'm not trying to encourage you, I'm just trying to say, that I did the same thing. I kind of reflected back and said, okay, who do I know that could give me some good feedback on it?
I think my initial question I asked was, how does it compare to the architectural drawings that we got for Bakersfield College? Do we
I
have
don't
a number?
remember what the cost
of what that
of
was?
just the drawings were, but the project was just under $1 million.
That was for construction and
Everything.
everything.
That was everything.
and that was almost 10 years
10 years ago.
It was also included facilities that we're not asking for.
We're not putting a restroom in and that kind of stuff.
And I don't know, splitting it up, how that, I think I mentioned this before, we don't do this for a living. So when you start splitting it up and the conflict you may have, I mean, that's what I see. Somebody does drawings, somebody's going to do the plans, somebody's going to do the project. They're not all going to be under the same jurisdiction or head person or firm. So I don't know what that's going to create down the road if we start breaking it up.
And these drawings are the project, these are the drawings that are going to get bid
Bid
out.
out,
These
yeah.
are just the site plan, or
Right.
this is the actual bid set of plans.
They're going to do a couple of conceptual
Yeah.
things,
So
then they'll approve it, because we still don't have a contract in place with CSUB. Design.
Elliot, I want to say off the top of my head for construction plan, 17th place that we're doing downtown, we might be able to shave off if we went back out to bid again, and it may be excessive by maybe 30 grand, but I don't see it. Maybe 40 grand.
What's your civils? I mean, over there it's civil. I mean, but this is pretty easy compared to that, though. There's no utilities. This is pavement sections. This is, this is taking out trees. You're not even disturbing one half of that island. I hear what you're saying. I just.
And I don't know if to save 40 grand, is this to pushing the project back 6 months? I don't know if that's a a real savings.
Well, the procurement is more than just the design, right? And what you've been talking about primarily is the design. Is it possible to break, you say it's difficult to break it apart, but the issue, one of the primary issues is the cost. Can you get a cost strictly for the design? The rest of the procurement, as I understand, is for the same firm to handle the RFP process for the construction. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the drawing.
And create the drawings, the bid
drawings, yeah,
documents.
the drawings.
That's probably the most time-consuming piece.
I'm not an expert in this area at all, but it sounds like we're at an impasse, and we need to take this back to the committee, perhaps get more people into a committee meeting and review this again. Is that what the board wants to do?
I think we should just make a motion one way or the other and vote on it.
That's kind of what I'm suggesting, yeah. We either, well, okay, so,
So I'll make the
What is our
motion,
motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the bid, or
Okay.
to approve the contract.
do we have a second? No? We,
You're authorized to make a second if you so
I
desire.
understand.
Okay.
I'm not making
With
a
no second, the motion would die for lack of a second, and it would not be approved.
Okay. So,
I'd like to make another motion.
all right.
I'd like to make a motion that we look into, within confines of our budget, find a local architect to take a look at the design and come up with something, that they can present to the board, that it can be approved by CSUB, and then go out to a full set of documents and do some design work ourselves. And hopefully that will result in some lower costs at some point. Maybe that's not a good idea.
Well, I would question whether that's piecemealing the project, and piecemealing is specifically prohibited in federal procurements.
I don't look at it as piecemeal. I look at where this is design phase. We're doing a conceptual design.
Can't we just, in our next RFP, I guess, say, or I don't know if we did it, say we want something similar to what was at Bakersfield College? It's there. I mean, so whatever your bid that you come back with, we want something similar to that in this location.
We did that with this.
Okay.
They were aware of that. But we can go back to the well and try again.
Because Elliot, I don't think paying somebody else 10 or 20 grand to do just a conceptual
I
drawing.
understand.
I mean, that's just gonna add cost. The cost that, we might have been saving, we're gonna add on to the price again.
Well, in my opinion, we can hire Greg Iger to take a picture of PC and pass the damn thing out. And that's all the design anybody would need. It's really clear.
It's there, what we want.
It's not like we have to figure it out.
I took one more step. We have the construction plans that we own from the last project we did. The engineering for the pavement sections are there, the distances are there, everything is there to draw the same thing at CSUB. There should be no reason why, it costs that much. That's my opinion.
Okay.
We have.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Withdraw.
So the action is what, not approved? What's the?
Nothing's been approved.
Nothing's been done.
And
I will make a motion. I will make a motion that we ask staff to do it again.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you need clarification on?
I would say it would be clearer if it was canceled as procurement and initiate a new procurement for the same services.
I don't have a problem changing my motion to that.
An amended second?
I'd like to amend that slightly, if I do the friendly amendment.
Well, he has to amend his motion, so you just ask
Excuse
him, just from a protocol standpoint, you can do that, but just ask Director Baldwin to amend his motion.
Director Baldwin, will you amend your motion? I'd like staff to somehow notice our local architects of this RFP and make that not a preferential treatment, just let them know that we'd like for them to submit, if possible. And if you don't think that's appropriate, that's fine.
Is this an architectural thing or is it an engineering thing?
It's an engineering thing.
Well, then I would love to amend my motion to say that, send it to everybody that you want to, including the locals. So that they can have a chance at it. 'Cause I have no problem with supporting the local folks. That's my new motion.
Okay.
And this will be a new procurement, okay? Somebody else can do the other one, but this will be a new motion for a new procurement that will include our local engineering firms.
I'll second it.
No, he has a second.
I have the second. Does that include the issue about location? Do you want to address that?
No, I don't want three negatives.
Okay.
I'm not gonna live with one.
My second is amended accordingly, as stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need
And then we need another motion to end this one,
cancel the previous one?
cancel the current one.
I think it would be helpful to have that.
So, yeah, I assume yes.
Do we have that motion?
So,
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Chris, I just want to say thank you for all your work. This is in no way
Oh, I know that.
is
Absolutely not.
on anything that you did wrong or didn't do or that we didn't do. I just want to make sure that,
I understand.
Yeah.
But no, that's it.
okay.
All right. Moving forward, back to Emery again. Route and system performance report.
I'm going to give just a brief description here of our annual route and system performance report for fiscal year 2015-16. You may recall last year, I believe the board members received copies of this report, and we complete this report at the end of every fiscal year. And the report, it helps us in making decisions, reviewing the routes. The Service Review Committee relies on some of the statistics when it makes some of the recommendations on service changes. The table of contents of the report here gives a good summary here, an outline of what's included. A large portion of the report includes a lot of ridership statistics, system-wide, as well as by route, individual route. But the report has more than just ridership, because performance is a lot more than ridership. It also includes some schedule adherence information, average passenger distances, wheelchair lift and bike rack activity, missed trips, and it also includes get-a-lift. This is just a sample of what's included in the report. When you go through it, you'll notice a lot of graphs and charts. The top one there is showing the total ridership in the system from way back from the mid 1970s all the way to the past fiscal year there. And you can see it's a little bit hard to see on this slide here, but it looks like it was leveling off there. There was a downward trend, but you can see near the right end of the graph there, the most recent fiscal year, it didn't go down, it actually went up slightly. And then the pie chart there, we have a breakdown of the fare boardings by fare type. There's also some tables with specific information in the report. And you'll notice that only 13% of the boardings are the cash fares. Practically everyone else is involved boarding with passes, and especially the day passes. That's the highest percentage category of all. Over 1/3 of the boardings involves the day passes. So day passes are really popular. I think they always were from the day they started. And then, of course, the 31-day passes, 28%. They're also a pretty big chunk of that pie chart. And then the report goes into a lot of specific tables, detailed information there. That's the graph there is showing, that's an example of some of the graphs. Weekdays, passengers per hour, shows it by route. And then the table below there in the report breaks it down by every month during the year, the passengers per hour by route. And then it gives the year-to-date total, and then we have standards, some of the service standards, and some of those columns to the right there will show how a route is performing, whether it's below the system-wide average, whether it's above. That's all included in that report. And then other information graphics there, that top graph is showing in the colors, those are boardings and the lightings by throughout the day by hour. And you'll notice, it's no surprise, we've had the same trend for quite a long time. The midday time period, from around 10 a.m. through probably like 3 to 4 p.m. is the heaviest ridership during the day. That's very typical. And then the table there, that's just an example of more information in the report. That's the schedule adherence summary. And in the report, it'll show all of the summaries for every route. Also, we have the wheelchair lift and bike rack activity, and thanks to the connection software, we're able to have a lot of this information. And it's very significant, the wheelchair lifts, that number is almost 200,000 there. And that's, that number, it's not people in wheelchairs, but it's actually use of the lifts, because when the lifts are used, it's not just people, of course, in wheelchairs, it's anyone who needs assistance using the lift. And then the bike racks, also an impressive number there, over 259,000. And then we also, we continue to log the missed trips, what the reasons are. In my earlier report, I already mentioned today that the missed trips, the total numbers have gone down quite a bit. And that graph is just showing some of the reasons there. And then the table there at the bottom, that's the operating ratio. We take the average costs and revenue figures and apply them to each of the routes. And that's how we come up with the operating ratio, how they're performing. Some of the strongest ones, you'll notice are Route 22. That's a really strong route. The 81 is also strong. 82 and 84 are among some of the weakest routes. And of course, we include get-a-lift. We have the top graph there showing the get-a-lift ridership over the years. It was pretty high. For this past fiscal year, we're getting close to a record again on get-a-lift. And then we also log there. We take a look there at passengers per day. It was pretty consistent throughout the year. And then near the end of the report, we have more tables with numbers there. That's an example of the rightmost column will show the most recent fiscal year, and then all the other columns are 7 years previous, just to take a look at, you can look at trends, what's happening there. And then the metrics also are included. And then also in the report, there's what I call the snapshot of a route, where you have the, there, I think it's near the back part of the report here, where it shows the map of where the route goes. It basically just gives information on some key numbers on the routes. That basically completes my report. And we will use this throughout the year to make decisions, and this also will be incorporated in the next update of the short-range transit plan. Any questions?
Thank you, Eric. Excellent work. Questions?
Just
No?
takes a long time to put this report together.
Yeah, well, one thing that helps too, of course, thanks to all the software we have, especially all the GFI with the fare boxes and the connections, and we're working on this throughout the year, every month. So, I mean, it is a lot of information, but at least it's being done every month, every week. Actually, we're compiling it, so it's. And thanks to Ricardo here too, he helps a lot with, especially with the GFI numbers.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Just one quick information item here. Ricardo here has become our assistant transit planner starting August 1st. You may recall he was our planning intern for the past year, so we're glad to have him here helping out.
Welcome aboard, Ricardo.
Thank you.
Excellent work. Thank you. Yeah, Ricardo, you finished your undergraduate program, then you're starting your master's soon?
I'm still holding off. I'm gonna take a break, but yeah, I did finish my undergrad.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, financial position. Steve, back to Steve.
And good evening. So this first month of the fiscal year, typically it will not do well in July. Usually ridership, students are out from school, constitutes a great portion of our ridership. Therefore revenues are down, so if you skip to just page 2, I think you'll find kind of a summation of all the items we have. We're below budget by 22.5%. Although it was mentioned earlier that Get Lift has done quite well this reporting period, but overall, if you noticed the revenues we had year to date, which is only 1 month. However, if you look very closely at last year's, we're just about spot on. So, they talk about trending. This is an indication. And needless to say, when you have, statistically, we will be hopefully improving this over the course of the next couple of months. Of course, August will also be an out-of-school month for the most part, so I expect the same revenue figures at that point. Operating expenses are down by 12.11%, which is also very favorable. Of course, too, the budget is a reflection of an average of 1/12. And that takes into account things that will increase in price over time. For example, benefits and so forth that will be implemented during anniversary periods. And so it may look appearing very pleasant at this point in time. It may fade away as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year. Further down, this will draw your attention. There's an item called Other Income and Expense. It's under the other revenue and expense category, and it's a minus 132,574. The city's finally invoiced us for all the work they do, and it's not just one lump sum. It's graded based upon what they've done. So we're paying as we go, but we're not to exceed $500,000 in total. But they're supporting all their invoices with pictures and with cost billings and so forth. So
They're doing a good job.
they're doing very good. Yeah. Contrast, I'm not sure where the county's at. I don't know whether they know either, so. Anyway, further down. So the end result is we're doing the first month at 16, a little over 16% fare box recovery ratio. The plus side on this is the get lift, the demand response is over 10%. It's very good. Hopefully sustain that throughout the rest of the year.
Why do we think that is?
Better ridership. Yeah, overall. There's no bulk passes involved. It's strictly what we sell.
And so the get a lift is, have we added more people to the get a lift system?
I think a little bit, a few more hours. Yeah. They're always adjusted based upon the demand, and the object of ADA is that you'll have 0 denials, for example. So you try to service everybody, and if your demand increases quickly, you've got to respond to that. So, I really don't have any other information to provide the board at this time. The typical information would be the page 5, which showed the listing of assets that we acquired and reported, which wasn't that much. The breakdown of the actual revenues, when you compare that for actual and the end year to date. And then, of course, mentioned earlier about the investment income on the very bottom, and that is our quarter's worth of interest at the county. So 1,221.50 should be a 0.5, not a comma 5. So.
I see we got advertising revenue a little bit farther up on page 5. Is that is that a result from our Lamar contract?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, is the demand ratio, what's the threshold we're looking for?
10%.
I didn't want to guess, so just.
I try that so we do.
I've got a question. When we had Aaron Hakimi here, he had said something about, because we're expanding our service, he went on the record saying that that would count, towards, reprieve from our fare box recovery ratio threshold.
Yes.
Do we know what that entails? And here's where I'm going with this. I mean, I feel like, last year, you guys did a really great job. We very close. This year, seems like it. I would say without any, major snafus, you're probably going to do what you think.
Yeah.
My question is can we use that reprieve to push some service? I guess what I'm saying is, okay, if our goal is not 20, but our goal is, 17 and a half, and KernCog says, yeah, that's a reasonable goal if you're going to go out and push service and if you expand your service, what does that 2.5% difference between fare box achieved and fare box expected, what does that mean as far as a dollar figure on what, we can have to go out and sort of do some, some increased service? You kind of see what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm coming
If
after?
you have for every dollar of revenue you can make, either through advertising, fare box, and so forth, equals $5 of investment. Okay, that's added service. So when you look at, when you go out to if you want to stay above the ratio, okay, at 20%, if it goes up to 25%, okay, that means obviously you've got more revenue coming in, so you can look at your 5-year plan as a basis for making expansion, or look at your current service and see how well it's performing. Put the money where you get the best return. For example, the X92 going down to Zone Ranch is actually a very contributing route. It actually contributes funds to other poorly performing routes because it's doing so well.
I guess what I'm saying is, along that same line, it's either the opposite. Either, you can go in the good years when you produce 25% fare box revenue, you take that 5 the next year and you can spend that 5 on, you can net yourself back to 20. But what I heard from Aaron is if we want to go out and expand the service, KernCog will give us the option to, or give us the ability to ask for our full.
Yeah, we could exempt that area. we can exempt it by basically going in with a certain percentage and ask for an exemption to that service area for those reasons.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, what is that dollar figure, and what could that possibly, get us as far as an investment in either new routes or timing issues, and that's kind of my thought.
I can do an exercise and bring that back to the board.
Yeah, because it may be worth, that 2.5%, which is not a huge, from a fare box, might give us the ability to add another route
or to do another 20-minute.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What people want
Headways,
is to increase headways on the.
But I think the key was hearing that from Aaron, and it kind of says, okay, now that gives us the, at least in my mind, maybe in our CEO's, not our CEO's mind, it gives us the ability to maybe go out and be aggressive, in our route expansion. Just a thought.
Well, that's why it takes 3 years to really mature whatever you're going to do in terms of a new area or a new application of service and see how it's responded to. And if you get after 2 or 3 years, you don't see very much productivity, it's time that you got to change things up. And unfortunately, that's also when you start getting negative feedback from people who now depend upon that service. Sorry to be brief in my report. I just think that there's not really much to say about July. Okay.
Thank you, Steve. Any other? Thanks very much. Okay. We have a current call report tonight, Cindy?
Yes, we did. We met in July. Yeah, met in July. Not a whole lot. We had a workshop on the exciting world of smart water meters. It was actually kind of interesting, the meter could tell you if you had a leak somewhere in your wall, and so that was a workshop on and it explained, how it worked and all that. So, and then the one thing that was on the agenda that I think affects us was the board voted on the contract with Alta Planning for the new active transportation plan that contributed some money in order to update what was the old bicycle transportation plan, but now you need to include pedestrian and transit facilities in these plans now in order to go out and get other grants and other funding. So I think once this new ATP is done, then we'll be able to use that in going out and getting grants. So that was voted on to award that contract to Alta.
Is the ATP part of the RTP, the long-range regional transportation plan for the county?
No, it's not.
Okay,
That's a separate document. I think, is there anything else? I think that was it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. High-speed rail update. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have a flyer at your place that looks like this, that's advertising public workshop for the downtown station area planning project that the city of Bakersfield is doing. That's on August 23rd, starting at 5:30. If you're interested in attending, I will be attending. Also, I attended the workshop in Tehachapi last month for the Bakersfield to Palmdale segment. It was interesting to be with a different group of people instead of with the Bakersfield people, to be there with the Tehachapi people and hear what their concerns were. But they went over the entire segment, which starts at the F Street station and goes south. I guess that is east and south. We have a meeting between the high-speed rail staff and get staff tomorrow morning to start talking about property acquisition. So I will be able to report at the next meeting how that goes. And I think that's all I have to report on high-speed rail.
Good question.
Commissioner?
Are we giving them criteria of what we are looking for and what area we're looking for? And then they're going out and finding the location, or are we actually giving them locations and saying, look at these places, or how's it?
We haven't initiated those discussions
Okay,
yet.
so this is a kind of a get the ball rolling kind of.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Karen. Board committee reports, finance and administration. We have minutes provided for that meeting. Any other comments on that?
No.
Okay. Facilities equipment, we covered that rather extensively. Any other comments, Elliot? Okay. And no other meetings this past month. One point I wanted to make, well, I guess, yeah, I'll hold off on that point. Future agenda items and board comments. Okay. Start out with Cindy, please.
I just have one, actually two. Just wanted to know when we might be seeing the downtown project that I kind of referred to staff as far as what we could do to doll up the downtown transit station.
When would you like to see that? We've talked about it a lot, but we haven't come up with a plan of action yet. We're a little bit stymied as to what actually can be done. There are some minor things that can be done, but short of that, it would take a major construction project to improve that facility.
I had talked to, part of it was, my comment was the security around there. I had a conversation with the chief of police, and he had said that BPD would be willing to, I mean, I don't know if the security company that we use, if they've done this, but that they could go to BPD and they would do a day of training with them, show them how to deal with some of the situations that they run into down there, that might be something that would help our existing security people that are down there, and that they're going to increase the patrols around there, but that maybe having our security people go and have some training from BPD. I don't know what kind of training our security company give the guards that are around there, so.
We certainly can look into that.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Jim?
I have copies of Mark's economic impact report, if anybody would like to have a copy.
Yes.
I brought several, so whoever would like to have a copy can have them.
Thank you.
They're here.
Okay. Did you want to say anything about that survey? Okay.
I'm assuming it's going to come to the board at some point, so.
All right, thank you. All right.
I know that at a previous board meeting, we talked about getting information to the folks at GET regarding any concerns that folks would have. We took it to the Voiced Coalition Group, and several of us have taken it to our clients
Oh, I
and
see.
staff, and we garnered the information and sent it in.
Okay, thank you.
If I can make one,
Yes.
I'm sorry. The chief also mentioned that voice group that you belong to, that is, you all do amazing work there, that you really bring a lot of issues to the forefront that need to be talked about. And yeah, so thank you for being involved in that.
Okay, Elliot?
Thank you, Jim. I am going to have to announce I'm going to be stepping down from my position as a board member effective after the meeting. I have moved out of the district, not because I don't like y'all. I've moved out of the district, my family's moved out of the district, and but I wanted to thank the staff and Karen. When I started, and I'll make this brief, when we started, we came in a tumultuous time, and there was some time where we all learned how to trust each other, and there was a steep learning curve for myself personally, and this isn't about me, but I just wanted to kind of give an overview of what I've learned in the last 2 years, and that is that the staff does a really great job, and a lot of times they're asked to do things that the resources aren't there. But if you take a broad picture, I believe that the bus company is moving in the right direction, and that's due in part by no small effort and work by all the folks that sit out here every single meeting and come to work every day and have dedicated their career to making it a good company. And I just wanted to thank all of you for how many reports have we gotten every month, and everything keeps going. I appreciate my fellow board members. I thank you for always listening to me and letting me do a little ranting, a little raving, and hopefully you'll come back. Hopefully I've been able to leave a positive mark on the organization, which is what I try to accomplish. And I just wish you all the best, and I'm sure we'll cross paths again in some other endeavor. And if so, I'm excited to read in the news what Get has in the future has to offer, because I think your future is very bright, and I'm actually really sad to go, but I'm happy to start a new chapter in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot.
Thank you.
I, for one, am very disappointed, but life goes on. You're moving into a new, I suppose, a period of life with your growing family and so forth. I believe your contribution to this board has been incredibly valuable to respond to your point. You mentioned you came in on a tumultuous time, and things have, I believe, because of your work, Jim's, Cindy's, and the staff, of course, things have stabilized a bit. Maybe not a bit, but a lot. The point I wanted to make in reference to the Mr. Grammy's presentation about the impact, the value Get brings to the organization. In a nutshell for me is when we did our strategic planning, beginning of this year, the top priority initiative that came out was identified by Karen, I believe, and it's about continued quality service. And that presentation by Dr. Grammy validates and proves that we are providing, because of the quality service, this impact. And it all ties together. And I think your contribution is, well, not I think, your contribution, you have been incredibly instrumental in all of that. Your expertise, particularly, as proven tonight on these subjects, has been invaluable. I've learned a lot from you. I really have, and I appreciate your mentoring me in a sense, in a lot of areas. I really do appreciated you. Thank you very much.
Why don't you stay until you're replaced?
So,
I had a conference with our attorney, and our enabling legislation is pretty clear on who can serve on the board. You must be a resident of the district, and I am no longer a resident of the district. So, in the interest of the law and doing the right thing, I just decided that it's the best thing to just you have to. You no longer meet the standards. You no longer meet the standards.
I think that's short-sighted.
well, I agree wholeheartedly, and I've actually asked the question. I brought this up several meetings ago about modifying our enabling legislation as a response to this kind of thing, but that's a long process.
That won't happen before we get replacement.
Right, that's my point, it's gonna take a year, if not more. This brings us to the point about 2 vacancies, and I did this past week submit actually about a 3rd or 4th letter to the county supervisors asking for them to kind of speed up their consideration for their appointment, and as a result of your announcement this evening, if the board approves, I'll send a similar letter to the city council.
So if one of us can't make the meeting, then there's no meeting.
There's no quorum.
That's correct.
That's
No business can be conducted without a quorum of the board. And
Can presentations be made
Presentation-
without a quorum?
you could.
Without a quorum?
Yes.
Quorum.
You just can't take action.
So,
Well, that's a real possibility with my schedule. So when I took this job, this appointment, I was clear with the county that I have my own company to run and it comes first because of the people that I serve. So I've missed a few. None of them have been on vacation. None of them, well, one's on vacation. I went to, no, it wasn't because you put the stupid thing at the end of the month. So none have been on
Right.
vacation, and one was a death in the family, and the rest of them have been all business related, so.
the response I got, I did get a response from the county supervisors.
Oh, you did?
Yes, and they had already formed a subcommittee of Supervisor Scribner and Maggard, and they did not give me a date when they'll be able to fill or make the appointment, but they're working on it, and so it's on their to-do list. It's not something that's been forgotten there. So, if you have a chance, maybe check in with them, Scribner and Maggard. Previously, I believe it was Letitia who was making these appointments, and I had in fact talked to her personally when I saw her one evening, but that's the status from that.
Who's incoming chair? Does anybody know?
Oh, you mean at the county?
Might be Scribner.
He's
right now.
chair right now.
Correct. Gleason.
Yeah.
He will be
Mick.
January.
Currently it's Mick, yeah.
Yeah.
Is he in 1 or 2?
One.
That's 1, so it's probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's in the right hands. It's got
Why?
incoming chair and incoming chair, so.
My only other comment as a member of the board, I had an opportunity to do a little ambassador service this morning. I attended a local high-speed rail workshop and introduced myself and as a board member, and invited people there to submit applications to the for our community advisory council. There seemed to be some interest there. Okay, moving forward. CEO report, Karen?
I only have a couple of brief things left on my list that I haven't already covered. One is that we were scheduled today to have an electric 40-foot bus here manufactured by BYD. They unfortunately had to cancel, so we will try and get that bus here at a future board meeting date, so you can see the technology and take a ride on the bus if you're so inclined. The Community Advisory Council applications are due on Friday. So if there's anyone that you know of that has an interest, please encourage them to get their application in. We've advertised it widely, so we're hoping to get a good group of people.
And where are those apps again?
They can actually get it on the website, or they can call and we'll send them an app, either email or snail mail.
That's an interesting concept. Those people do not have to be a resident within the district area, is that correct?
We said they need to ride our system.
Okay, this
So-
could be anybody. Well, I'm leading up to a point. Elliot?
You're gonna keep
Elliot?
You're gonna rear me inside out.
All right, thank you.
Duly noted.
And then lastly, I just wanted to note that I sent you an email this afternoon regarding an agenda item that will be on your next board agenda, which is a self-evaluation of the board. Chairman Hunter has asked that we place that on the agenda, and I applaud one board member for already getting the survey back. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and I'm going to recommend we postpone it.
We did, I'm,
Three
don't-
evaluations.
Well, no, I was
Jesus.
gonna ask Elliot to submit one as well.
Okay.
I will be happy to submit my
All right,
evaluation,
that's good.
absolutely.
All right, okay, thank you
Four's
very
good.
much. Okay.
That concludes
That's it?
my report.
Thank you. I guess that we are adjourned for this meeting. Our next meeting is September,
Closed session.
For this meeting.
no, I mean, the next meeting is September
6th.
6th. Thank you.